Previously named Turtle Island, the land belonged to Indigenous people prior to European conquest. While the city is attracted to tourists coming for Stanley Park, the aquarium and the extensive shopping district, it is easy to forget that this land has such dark history.
The city of Vancouver lies on land unceded by the state at the detriment of millions of Indigenous people, including the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations. During this period of genocide, the Indigenous populations decreased from 1.5 million to just 100,000 people, with few remaining descendants still feeling the effects today.
Through our interaction with the Indigenous Relations Officer at Vancouver Police Department, we learned that they are working towards the future in an exclusive and optimistic manner, working to build new relationship with the Indigenous community. However, despite these efforts, it could be suggested that bridge building is simply a method of commodifying Indigenous culture to the benefit of the state by selectively choosing certain elements to best represent the history and perhaps ignoring those elements that are less desirable or profitable.
This is evident when looking at the differences between the totem poles preserved at the Museum of Anthropology at the University of British Columbia and the totem pole display at Stanley Park. Originally, totem poles consisted of plain wood carvings to tell a story. However, the display at Stanley Park consists of new carvings from the 1980s, replicas of the originals in 1920, with metal rods keeping them upright, painted in bright colours imported from various countries, completely different than the traditional plain red cedar style, in a bid to attract tourists to the area. Only one pole at the display has been made as authentic as possible. This potential commodification is further suggested by the presence of a tourist gift shop adjacent to the pole display, selling totem souvenirs such as postcards, magnets, keychains and t-shirts, all with Indigenous designs and patterns.
It was clear that the VPD holds the local Indigenous population in high regard, evident through their variety of programs aimed at these communities such as the Indigenous Cadets Program and Sister Watch. The Sister Watch program is an initiative the police force is particularly proud of. It focuses on the protection of women in these communities and aims to tackle the lack of reporting of violent crimes against Indigenous women and girls in the downtown east side. However, it is often overlooked that the entire initiative was born out of force following a tragic death of an Indigenous woman in 2011, which catalysed an entire movement against the police and their evident lack of interest in the safety of Indigenous women, which perhaps argues that the relations shared are not as equally footed as one may think.
The police played a pivotal role in the abduction of children for the enrolment into residential schools in a successful attempt to disengage them with their families and erase their culture and language through forbidding school children to speak their native tongue and the abolishment of First Nation ceremonies until 1951. With our previous discussion in mind, we posed the question, is the state concerned with the reconciliation and revival of Indigenous culture, or is it simply a money-making process through the commodification of Indigenous culture? Our Indigenous Relations Officer at the VPD would argue not, claiming there is a genuine effort being made by the state to bring back Indigenous culture and reconcile with the community that they once brutally marginalised. However, without a doubt, Indigenous culture is clearly a strong tourist attraction in Vancouver, with many sites displaying Indigenous art, hosting festivals and enticing consumers to take part.
The distrust that Indigenous people feel towards the state will not be helped if their culture is in fact being commodified for state gain. And so whilst efforts are being made to educate the population and gain the trust of the community, there is still work to be done to reassure them that the state believes there's more to their culture than profits.